Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin, better known as Charlie Chaplin, was born on April 16, 1889, in Walworth, London. His parents, Charles Chaplin Sr. and Hannah Harriet Hill, were both performers in the music hall scene. Sadly, they separated shortly after Charlie was born, and he was left in the care of his mother, whose mental health was becoming increasingly unstable. By 1896, things had gotten really tough. With his mother unable to find work, young Charlie and his older half-brother, Sidney, were placed in the Lambeth Workhouse. A few weeks later, they were moved to Hanwell School, a home for orphans and destitute children. Tragedy continued to follow the family. Charlie's father passed away from alcoholism when Charlie was just 12, and not long after, his mother suffered a severe mental breakdown. She was admitted to the Cane Hill Asylum near Croydon, where she remained until her death in 1928. Despite these hardships, Charlie had his first taste of performing at the age of 5, filling in for his mother at a music hall show in 1894. Even as a child, he battled illness, spending long periods bedridden. To comfort him, his mother would sit by the window and act out scenes from the street below, perhaps planting the first seeds of his storytelling genius. By 11, Charlie had landed a role as a comic cat in the pantomime Cinderella at the London Hippodrome, thanks to a little help from Sidney. In 1903, he appeared in Jim, A Romance of Cocaine, and soon after took on his first steady role as Billy the newspaper boy in the play Sherlock Holmes, which he performed until 1906. From there, Charlie joined Casey's Court Circus variety show, and not long after, he became a clown in Fred Karno's Fun Factory, a slapstick comedy company. It was with Karno's troupe that Charlie first traveled to America, arriving on October 2, 1912. Among the performers in the group was Arthur Stanley Jefferson, later known as Stan Laurel. The two even shared a boarding house room during their early days in the US. While Stan eventually returned to England, Charlie stayed in America. His big break came when film producer Max Sennett saw him perform and offered him a spot at Keystone Film Company. Although Charlie initially struggled with Keystone's fast-paced style of comedy, he quickly adapted and thrived. It wasn't long before he created his iconic character, the Tramp. Gaining more control over his work, he started directing and shaping his films, becoming Keystone's biggest star. His rapid rise to global fame is a testament not just to his talent, but also to the sharp business skills of his brother Sidney, who managed his career behind the scenes. Charlie Chaplin's rise to fame wasn't just about creative genius. His paychecks quickly started reflecting his growing stardom too. In 1914, while working with Keystone, he earned $150 a week, a solid start for a newcomer in silent film comedy. But things moved fast. By 1915, he signed with SNA Studios in Chicago, where his weekly salary jumped to a whopping $1,250, plus a $10,000 signing bonus. That was huge money at the time. Then came an even sweeter deal. In 1916, Chaplin signed with Mutual Film Corporation and started making $10,000 a week, not to mention a jaw-dropping $150,000 signing bonus. He was quickly becoming one of the highest-paid entertainers in the world. By 1917, Chaplin hit a major milestone. He signed a deal with First National that was worth a staggering $1 million, making him the first actor in history to earn that much. But he didn't stop there. That same year, he took a major leap toward independence by founding his own production company, the Charles Chaplin Film Corporation. In 1918, he even built his own studio in Hollywood, giving him full creative and financial control over his work, something that was almost unheard of at the time. It was a bold move that made him not only a beloved artist, but also a very wealthy and powerful figure in the film industry. Using this independence, over the next 35 years, he created a remarkable, timeless body of work that remains entertaining and influential. These include comedy shorts, such as A Dog's Life, 1918, and Payday, 1922, longer films, Shoulder Arms, 1918, and The Pilgrim, 1923, and his great silent feature-length films, The Kid, 1921, A Woman of Paris, 1923, The Gold Rush, 1925, and The Circus, 1928, after the arrival of sound films. He made City Lights, 1931, and Modern Times, 1936, essentially silent films scored with his own music and sound effects. His dialogue films made in Hollywood were The Great Dictator, 1940, Monsieur Verdoux, 1947, and Limelight, 1952. Modern Times, 1936, a silent movie, did feature some dialogue. It is actually his first movie where his own voice is heard. However, it is still majorly and essentially a silent film. In 1919, he founded the United Artists Film Distribution Company with Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith, and served on the board of OUA until the early 1950s, although talkies became the dominant mode of movie making soon after they were introduced in 1927. Chaplin resisted making a talkie all through the 1930s. It is a tribute to Chaplin's versatility that he also has one film credit for choreography for the 1950 film Limelight, and one credit as a singer for the title music of the 1928 film The Circus. The best known of several songs he composed are Smile, famously covered by Nat King Cole, among others, and the theme from Limelight, which won a belated Oscar for Best Film Score in 1973. His first dialogue picture, The Great Dictator, 1940, was an act of defiance against Adolf Hitler and fascism. Filmed and released in the United States 1 year before it abandoned its policy of isolationism to enter World War II, Chaplin played a fascist dictator clearly modeled on Hitler, also with a certain physical likeness, as well as a Jewish barber. Cruelly persecuted by the Nazis, Hitler, who was a great fan of movies, is known to have seen the film twice. Records were kept of movies ordered for his personal theater. After the war and the uncovering of the Holocaust, Chaplin stated that he would not have been able to make such jokes about the Nazi regime had he known about the actual extent of the pogrom. Charlie Chaplin didn't just earn fame, he earned some serious recognition from the Academy, too. He won 2 honorary Oscars over the course of his lifetime. The first came during the very first Academy Awards, held on May 16, 1929. Back then, the Oscars were still figuring themselves out. Categories were fluid, and the strict voting procedures we know today didn't exist yet. Chaplin was originally nominated for Best Actor and Best Director Comedy for his film The Circus, but the Academy ended up pulling his name from competition. Instead, they gave him a special honorary award for his all-around brilliance, acting, writing, directing, and producing The Circus. The only other film to receive a special award that year was The Jazz Singer, recognized for ushering in the era of sound. His second honorary Oscar came 44 years later, in 1972, and it was a big moment. The Academy honored him for the incalculable effect he has had in making motion pictures the art form of this century. After years of self-imposed exile from the US, Chaplin returned to Hollywood to accept the award just 3 weeks before the death of J. Edgar Hoover, who had been one of his most powerful critics. When Chaplin took the stage, the crowd erupted. He received a standing ovation that lasted a full 5 minutes, the longest in Oscar history. It was a touching moment of recognition for a true legend. Although he never won a competitive Oscar for acting or writing, Chaplin was nominated multiple times. The Great Dictator earned him nods for Best Picture, Best Actor, and Best Original Screenplay, and he was nominated again for Best Original Screenplay for Monsieur Verdoux in 1947. Then in 1973, Chaplin finally won a competitive Oscar for Best Original Dramatic Score for his 1950 film Limelight. That film starred Claire Bloom and included a rare and historic cameo by Buster Keaton, the only time the 2 silent film giants ever appeared together on screen. Interestingly, Limelight wasn't eligible for Oscar consideration when it was first released due to Chaplin's troubles with McCarthyism. The film never opened in Los Angeles, a requirement for Academy eligibility at the time. It wasn't until 1972, decades later, that it finally premiered there, making it eligible for the Oscars. Charlie Chaplin's final films were A King in New York, where he also starred, and A Countess from Hong Kong, which featured a powerhouse cast including Sophia Loren and Marlon Brando. While his creative work continued to break new ground, his personal life often drew more attention than his films, especially when it came to his politics and his controversial relationships with much younger women. His first marriage took place on October 23, 1918, when 28-year-old Chaplin married 16-year-old Mildred Harris. The relationship was short-lived and tragic. Their only child, Norman Spencer Chaplin, died in infancy, and the couple divorced in 1920. Chaplin passed away peacefully on Christmas Day, 1977, at the age of 88, at his home in Vevey, Switzerland, after suffering a stroke. He was laid to rest in the Coursier-sur-Vevey cemetery in the Swiss canton of Vaud, but even after death, his story took one final dramatic twist. On March 1, 1978, Chaplin's body was stolen from his grave by two men attempting to extort money from his family. The bizarre plot failed, the thieves were eventually caught, and his body was recovered 11 weeks later, near Lake Geneva. Afterward, his remains were reburied in a reinforced grave to prevent any further tampering. Today, a statue of Charlie Chaplin stands proudly in front of the Alimentarium Museum in Vevey, honoring the final chapter of his extraordinary life and career.